And in order for me to personally part it...
Good, but not great. That's
Julian.
yeah.
Gold ochre. It would... Don't make me laugh.
It is the American way. It is the British way. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean that
I didn't know I could do an
that's the
impression.
name of the shop. Not Burgin and Borkes, which is what what's good.
I know that I don't do myself any favours because I try and you try and look a bit more butch because you think that you should.
His arm's gone all floppy with no bones. He said, "What did you expect, Bump?" Which is, as it describes, it's a very bright cherry red.
Wow, body form.
Was that the advert? My favourite colourways. That was cool. I did it all in one.
Welcome everyone to the Bakery Bears video show featuring a very spooky special edition of my favourite colourways.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, wait until you see what's in store later on in the show.
It's a good one.
It's a seasonal explosion of colours,
yes,
isn't it,
do you
Mrs.
like
Jones?
our little decorations?
Yes. No, you may
We never normally do stuff like this actually for Halloween. It's been really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you may be wondering, what on earth is all this stuff behind? Well, let me tell you, it's to celebrate our very first, and it's going to be annual,
Yeah.
our very first Sockoween event. And my goodness, it's been amazing. How many amazing socks have you been seeing appearing?
So many amazing Halloween spooky inspired socks. It's just been a joy. And I've got a pair that I've cast on as well, so I'll show you those.
And you've got two amazing socks in What's Off Your Needles as well.
Yes, I have.
Oh, yes.
2 pairs of socks, not
Yes,
just
4.
2 socks.
You have 4.
I have 4 socks.
4 whole socks.
Yes.
All finished.
Amazing.
It's absolutely marvellous.
Yes.
So
Socktastic.
this is a special, it's a patron cowl, but we are today having this lovely special My Favourite Colourways to celebrate it as well. So everyone is sort of invited to our Sockoween event. But if you want to get involved, and we'd love you to get involved with the knit-along element because there's some amazing prizes. It's going on all month. Also, if you've never knitted socks before, fear not, because Kay, as we spoke about last time, she's already been putting out her absolute beginner magic loop sock series.
Yes.
And so even if you've never knitted socks, you can come and knit socks with us. And the prizes at the end of the month are just amazing.
Yeah, we're going to have, there'll be some yarny prizes. I think there'll be one skein that I've dyed. There'll be another skein that I want to give away. That's the more commercial dyed, but it's lovely. And then also I'm going to have 3 pattern prizes because on Halloween this year I'm releasing a brand new blanket pattern, and there'll be 3 copies of that blanket pattern as well that I'm going to use as prizes. So very, very exciting.
And we've got all through this month, we've got special things happening because we have a special issue of our magazine Knitability, a Sockoween special, where our editor Jen has gone a bit bananas with the whole seasonal joyousness, which is just so fun. So that's coming out next week.
I wrote a very interesting article about the power of crystals.
It's very witchy and spooky.
That's all I'm going to say.
Well, it's not spooky at all.
It's not spooky.
But it's sort of magical.
So
it takes you down the whole seasonal thing. But yeah, I mean, it's right in what Kay says. And it's funny because I've seen a couple of our patrons who are getting involved with the knit-along saying, I don't celebrate Halloween. Well, neither do we. We don't
really. We've never celebrated. I say that in inverted commas because I would never use that word with Halloween, really.
No. The only thing I celebrate is Christmas and birthdays, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, in this country, really, bonfire night is more of a thing, I would say, than Halloween.
But you don't celebrate bonfire night.
No, we don't ever really say it like that, do we?
No. I mean, celebrate to me is like deck the halls and
yes,
you know,
or a birthday.
Really lean into it, type of thing.
Yeah,
you know, where there's maybe things going on in your personal life.
Yeah,
all around. You know, that's just not. I don't think it's.
No,
it's not the British way.
It probably isn't.
Did you get that?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. That was Scrooge, wasn't it? That was Muppets Christmas Carol.
It is the American way. It is the British way. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean that.
I didn't know I could do an impression of him.
He's the teacher, isn't he? But
yes.
The Muppet character, I can't remember what.
Don't even try. We've got no chance. There'll be loads of people out there now.
It's like a really traditional American
They'll be commenting
name,
below and they'll be letting us know what his name is.
They will.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, no, we don't really celebrate Halloween.
No, we don't celebrate Halloween, but that doesn't mean that we can't get into the vibe and the mood and, you know, so we're knitting all of those socks all through October.
It's all about enjoying the colours of the season, welcoming in our favourite time of year.
Watching a few really bad Halloween films, let's just say that.
But maybe not let's go into detail because we might offend some people who love the films.
Yes, we might.
So we won't talk about that. No. Moving swiftly on. But yes, it's been, do you know what? I've just loved it so far. And it's only like 7 days in.
I know.
We've got a whole month to go.
I know. It's been so fun.
So yes, today, very, very exciting, amazing, 2 colourways coming. Now, the question is this. Can you remember the name of the contrast colourway that you're going to dye up in today's show? Because you certainly couldn't in the outtakes.
No.
Can you remember it?
No, I can't. I think I had to think.
On. What is it?
Did you see the cogs whirring then? It's Borgin and Burkes.
Is it?
I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
Not Burgin and Borkes.
It's easily done.
And even now, I'm not sure. I think it's Borgin and Burkes, isn't it? Harry Potter people tell me. I think so.
It is, I'm sure.
Okay.
Just 2 of the most gorgeous colourways. And my goodness, when you see them knitted up as well, which you're going to see, just tremendous.
Yes.
Now look, I had a slightly emasculating experience over the last couple of weeks.
Really?
Yes. Now look, I'm not going to name any names here. Because look, these guys are great. I have 2 garages that I go to. One, you may remember. Hello, Carl.
Carl!
Jan, jab him in the ribs. Jan is a viewer of the show. And she is the wife.
Jan's lovely.
So's Carl.
So is Carl.
They're both lovely.
They are.
And Carl takes care of my car.
Yes.
But whenever my car needs tyres...
And mine.
Yes, everyone's cars. Everyone's cars. In fact, when we drive past the garage... I
literally think he takes care of everybody's car in the
world.
Town.
In the world. We drive past the garage, and so long as Carl's car's parked outside, we both go.
We're happy.
Everything's fine.
It's all right, Carl.
Everything's all right with the world.
Carl's in the garage.
We all know people like that, don't we? We all know people who it's really important. It's a bit like our postman. When our postman's not here, I mean, he's been our postman forever.
Can't think how long.
At least, I mean... Definitely 10 years.
10 years must be.
Might be even 15 years.
Yeah.
If suddenly he was to disappear, it would just be weird.
Yeah.
The world would be different.
We do worry when he's on holiday. We're like, oh,
yes,
he's probably just on holiday.
Yes.
And we always ask the other postman, is Steve all right?
And they always get really offended.
Oh, and when we love it when it's Michael. We've got this postman called Michael.
He looks like Santa.
He does look a bit like Santa.
Just with a shorter beard.
He's the most polite man.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
I've got something to sign for you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I love him.
How's Steve? Oh, he's fine, sir. He's fine.
Just on holiday for a few days.
Just on holiday, sir. On holiday, sir. Goodbye, sir.
He's the most fabulous person.
He is, yes.
We all need to speak more like that.
Yes, yes. Michael is a legend.
Yes.
Now, look, I headed off down to my garage to get some work done on my tyres. And in I go to the garage. And this garage is amazing. So this is not Carl's...
This is not Carl's garage.
No, I must say that over and over again. This is not Carl's garage.
This is a specific tyre garage.
It's a specific tyre place.
Yeah.
And they are tremendous. When you pull in there, first of all, it's very old-fashioned, which I love. You know, it's all hands, you know, no machines, nothing. It's very old-fashioned, brilliant. You pull in and your car's jacked up and your wheels are off before you've even got out of the car. I mean, they are stupendous. But unfortunately, they're a group of dudes. They're a group of guys all together. And do you know what it feels like with me when I go into it? It's like the new lion in the pride.
Yeah.
Or the new gorilla. What's a collective group of collective term for gorillas?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't. Oh, a troop. I think
it
it's
might
a troop.
be a troop. Yeah, it might be.
So like there's testosterone like flying off the walls, and you have to go into that space, and for some reason you feel like, I know that I don't do myself any favours because I try and you try and look a bit more butch because you think that you should. And this time when I went in, they started talking about things to do with the cars, and they were talking to me as if I knew what they were talking about, and I'm like, I've got no idea. And in the end, I had to say, look, I really don't know what you're talking about. Could you say it a bit slower so I can write it down on my phone? So I did, and I was feeling really terrible. And then this poor lady comes in to get her tyre repaired. She pulls in. She says, I think I've got a puncture. So yeah, we'll take a look. We'll take a look at it for you, love. So they go and look at it. Yeah, definitely a puncture. Have you got your locking wheel nut? What's that? She said.
She didn't know what it was.
They're like turning around.
They were like laughing at her.
She doesn't know what a locking wheel that is. You'll have to phone your husband, one of them said. I'm like, oh no, this is so terrible. So she gets on the phone to her husband. Another goes, it's all right, I found it. I'm like, oh no, this is just terrible. But it's also wonderful because it's like stepping back in time.
Well, it is, isn't it? It is, because places like that traditionally were never a kind of female domain, were they?
No, but well, I think what I love about it is when I say stepping back in time, this is good, old-fashioned, brilliant service.
The service is amazing.
From people who know exactly what they're talking about, who care intensely about their customers, but perhaps they could just do with a bit more 21st century awareness of the world.
Yeah.
That's enough waffle. Because this is a show and a half. Because you've got some amazing projects to show us. 2 amazing What's Off Your Needles.
Yeah.
A pair of socks that I want to get my hands on.
Yes.
Ribby goodness, baby. So without further ado, I think it's time that I ask Kay Jones, what's on your needles in your lovely spooky bag?
So, the first thing, yes.
Ooh!
It is actually a little bit spooky, isn't it, this
It's more
bag?
than a little bit spooky. There's pumpkins.
Pumpkins and candy corn.
And there's the stars in there.
I don't understand candy corn. What is candy corn? I don't know what that is. Is it literally just sweets that look like sweet corn?
As I understand it, yes.
Right, okay. Because we don't really have that, do we?
No, I've never even seen it.
I've never even seen it.
No.
Yeah, so in my sort of slightly Halloweeny bag with my embroidery on that we did in Stitch to You, I've got my cardigan.
Woohoo!
Now, I must just remember to show you, because I've got the buttons, everybody. Yeah, I've been kind of a bit worried about repicking this up. Because,
it was fun though, doing the maths with you.
Oh gosh, Dan had to help me.
Like you don't help me all the time with my stuff.
They're not there.
I mean, it was a privilege, to be honest, for me to be able to... And I really enjoyed it too, because it really is quite taxing when you're approaching something like this. Because, there's a lot of sort of...
It was a lot more mathematically challenging than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Because I'd got to the point where I needed to start knitting the sort of fronts and back separately. Because up till this point, it's all been one piece. The back and the 2 fronts I've been knitting as one piece. But I got to that point where I needed to cast off some stitches just under the arm here, and then work on one front panel to the top, and then go back and do the back panel, and then go back, cast off some stitches, or however I'm going to do it. Whether I do that on the back, I'm not sure. And then knit the other front. So I'd got to that point and I just couldn't sort of face looking at it because it just all seemed too complicated. The only reason it was complicated is because I'd chosen to put a pattern in it. And it was that pattern that was dictating where I cast off those stitches under the arm and also how many, because I didn't want it to, it had to be sort of a full pattern repeat and it had to be at the right point, and oh gosh, honestly. But Dan helped me and we worked it out. And we did it, I should say. So now I've actually...
It was like 12% me and the rest you.
It was I found it really challenging. I don't know why I found it so challenging.
It was difficult.
It was just really difficult.
What I think what's so good though is
I really admire garment designers.
Well, you also, I felt that you felt very sort of enthused afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I was pleased actually when we'd worked it out, but also when I'd done it. When I'd done it, I was like, right, I've done it, and all I've got to do now is knit a bunch of inches for the front until I get to a little bit of shaping up here.
I think what it is, and it's one of the things that I love about knitting is, I think that those victories that you have with projects, those little victories, it gives you such a feeling of well-being and also success, and I think we all need that in our days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so let me show it to you and then I'll explain where I'm kind of up to. It's a bit difficult to show now because what I've done is so here we are. You can see I've got all of my back stitches. I know. Look how it matches my Halloween bunting.
Very seasonal.
So I've got all of the back stitches and the other front on this cord, which this is actually a Chowgoo cord, and it's got the stoppers, which so it worked perfectly. So I just transferred all of those stitches onto the Chowgoo cord, put the stoppers on so I can not have to worry about those. So here is where I bound off some stitches there. And so that's the underarm here. And now I'm knitting up the front. Can you see?
It looks perfect.
And I haven't worked on this for a little while because I've had lots of other things I've had to do. But this bit, it's about 3 inches maybe, it didn't take very long at all because I'm working on comparatively so few stitches to what I was used to working on across the whole thing. I can't remember, I don't know, 250-ish stitches, something like that is what I've got on the whole thing. And the front is only like 50-ish, something like that.
Gosh.
So it just absolutely whizzed. But what I've got to be careful of is this is the button band because I'm knitting the button bands part of it as well. So this is the button band that has the buttonholes. So I'm really having to keep an eye on the spacing for those and remember where I'm spacing them. So there are a certain number of rows apart. So what I do is when I've put one buttonhole in, I then count forward and make a note of where the next one goes. So for example, if this one was placed on the 3rd row of the 15th repeat, I then count that forward and I know that the next one might be on row 8 of the 17th repeat or whatever. And that's how I'm sort of keeping track of it. It's a lot of things to keep track of, I've got to say, because I'm not just following a pattern. I really am completely making this up. Because although I use the Anne Budd book as a guide, this is not how it's knitting there. It's knitting pieces and there's no pattern in it and the button bands are not included, and it really is totally coming out of my head. The only thing that I didn't really think through, and I'm just going to have to go with it now, is the edge here, which is like the edge of the front. This is where the sleeve will be picked up from. There's the underarm. The sleeve will be picked up along here. There isn't like a margin for pickup, do you know what I mean? It ends at the end of a pattern repeat. And there isn't, I wish, in hindsight, I wish I'd thought a bit more about that and added an extra stitch, like a selvage. I think that's what it would be called, wouldn't it? Just added an extra stitch for me to pick up. Because I can do it, I will be able to pick up along it, but it'll be a bit fiddly. But I've never designed a cardigan or a jumper or anything before, so it's a learning process. And I got going and I looked at it and I realised, and I thought, well, that's not ideal, but looking at it, I'll be able to pick up on there, so that's fine. I can work with it.
What's so great is I've never seen you so enthused about a garment before.
No, I mean... And
it is because you're doing it yourself.
It's because I'm doing it. It's a massive, massive challenge, I've got to say. And it only because I thought I'd made it simple for myself by knitting it all in one piece. But actually, I made it more difficult because there is no pattern to follow. knit all in one piece. It's not like I'm using a sort of basic template. There isn't that. I'm winging this to a large degree. And if all I want at the end of the day is to produce something that will be wearable. If I can wear it, even if it's just in the house, that's fine. Because I will have achieved what I set out to achieve, and that is to just design something myself that I can wear. It's pretty, it's functional, and I will have, like I say, achieved something. So I'll show you, I'll try and hold it a bit closer so you can see the stitch pattern that I popped in there. So I just added this lace pattern in, and it is really pretty.
It's gorgeous.
So the body will be all patterned, the back and the fronts will be all patterned, the sleeves will be plain.
It's going to be so exciting when you're knitting the sleeves.
Yeah, when I get to that point, I think now that I've done this, and once I get going on it, I think it will be relatively quick now.
Will it be 3 needle bind off at the top of the shoulders?
Yeah. So once I've completed knitting the 2 fronts and the back, I will then, I think I'll do 3 needle bind off the top of this bit here, top of the arm, shoulders, that's the word. And then I'll be picking up the sleeves. So I will pick up for the sleeves, and I think I'm going to do like a bishop type sleeve, just to make it easy for me. And I really like that idea. I think that'll be really pretty to have that all over lace, and then those sort of romantic looking sleeves.
Be gorgeous.
So I can just knit straight down, so I can either use, depending on how many stitches I pick up, I'll either use a 16-inch, like a hat circular, or a 12-inch. I don't mind using a 12-inch. That's my limit, really. I can't do those teeny tiny ones. So yeah, and the yarn I'm using, just as a reminder, is
BC Garn Similla.
It is BC Garn Similla. It's beautiful yarn. BC Garn Similla, and the colour, this beautiful colour, is burnt orange. Gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. It's organic. It's 100% wool. I think it's superwash actually. Oh look, the label. Yeah, 30 degrees it says. This is going nowhere near a washer, can I just tell you? Nowhere near. But I wanted to show you the buttons because I bought some buttons, and what I wanted some crystal buttons, but I didn't want them to stand out against the fabric. I wanted them to have that bit of a sparkle, but not be, like clear or crystal coloured, you know what I mean? And gosh, did I have a tough time finding these. I wanted Swarovski. So they were really difficult to find, but in the end, I did find some, but I believe I had to order these from, it was somewhere like Lithuania, I think.
Actually, I vaguely remember seeing a comment from a patron somewhere.
Lithuania?
I think a patron commented somewhere that Duttons for Buttons had some
right.
Swarovski ones.
Yeah, it was the colour though, because I did look around at various places in this country for Swarovski buttons, and you could get them quite readily, but it was the colour. I really struggled to get this colour. So I'll show you in the little, can you see?
Ooh.
Oh, look everyone. Let me
look at them sparkle.
Hold them close and then it'll, there you go. Oh, look. Just enjoy the little sparkle there for a second. And I went for the ones that are, so underneath it's like that's how you attach it underneath. So I wanted this colour that would, can you see? I don't know how, oh look, I'll put it on the swatch. Can you see how it's the same kind of colour, but it's gonna, can you see how it's just sparkling a bit there? And I think they're going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Really perfect.
Good colour choice.
Yeah, they weren't massively expensive, I've got to say. It was, I think, because I was getting them from Europe, they seemed to be cheaper than the UK. So they weren't massively expensive. They just took a little bit of time to arrive. It wasn't a problem at all. But I just preferred to use the UK shop, but I just couldn't find the colour. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with those. I'll pop them back in the bag, and they kind of motivated me to finish it, because putting the buttons on is the last thing, isn't it? And I know that when I get to putting the buttons on, I will have finished. So that's super exciting. Yeah, so I can just crack on now with that and get knitting that front.
Lovely.
Dan Jones?
Yes.
What's on your needles?
It's the Hadrians Cowl, and I'm very excited about this.
Yes.
My colour work is constantly being assessed and refined, not just by me, but also by Kay. And because of that, you know, you constantly make it. It's why I love it so much, because it is one of those things. You know, there's going to be loads of you out there who are like seriously accomplished colourwork knitters who, you know, you don't need to worry about any of these things because you just do it and it's marvellous. But for all of us intermediates, you know, it takes a lot of work. It really does. So, you know, if you're out there and you've just taken your first steps on your colourwork journey, I've had some abject disasters, you know, and every project you learn from. I remember the first project I did was the split back snowflake hat, and it was just too tight because I've not learned how to float, and it's taken me years to really nail the floating. And I just want you to look at that section there and just
it's beautiful.
Tell me honestly now, you know, I'm not asking for...
Am I not normally honest?
You are. I think that's the greatest section of colourwork that I've ever knitted, and the reason being is that centre
the centre stitch
one there.
is really good.
Show it to everyone in just a second.
Okay.
This pattern has been designed for me by Kay. It's to celebrate walking the wall. She's once again sort of looked at the different sections, a bit like with a Sweetheart Cowl, and put in all the types of things that I really love to knit in colourwork, but also put in some things that's really quite stretching. So
look how cool it looks on screen.
I know. It is. I mean, look at that. Like, boom.
You can't. I mean, you can see the top section a bit. Look.
And now that top section. 2 years ago, a year ago, I would not have been able to knit that top section like that. The Sweetheart Cowl taught me a massive amount because that midsection was challenging like that.
Look at that.
Now, the areas where you get problems is here. Normally, you're going to get disappearing stitches on that contrast colour in the middle there. Similarly, with all these up here, these dotty bits, again, you're going to get disappearing stitches unless your technique is right and you're knitting with a nice even gauge, you know, a nice even tension so that all the stitches, you know, stand out as they should do. And so, you know, to look at that, it's always like, I'm always slightly nervous when I start knitting colourwork sections because you know going into it, okay, I know what I'm going to do and I've learned so much, okay, but still in the back of your mind you're like, is it going to work? Are things going to come out okay? And this is the first time with this section here where it's really I have not found a stitch where I've thought, do you know what, I've not got it quite right there. It looks marvellous.
And I mean, wait till you see how this section develops. It's quite a big section because what these panels all represent is it's called temple.
And if you had geophysics,
it's like the footprint of a temple.
So if you scanned the ground, the square, that's what you'd see.
Yeah, and what inspired me was this for this section was we once watched a Time Team where they found two temples and they were butted up against each other and it looked like two of these together. That's just what it looked like. So that was my inspiration for that. And then this section is the wall. Yeah, it's the bricks. So it's the bricks in the wall. And this type of colourwork is really tricky. When you've got that really regular pattern. Yeah, it's a nightmare. It really is difficult because you get that kind of regularity with your floats, which can make it concertina in, I find. You've got to unregulate them. Yeah, and you've done a great job. I think it looks brilliant. And then the top section. And then this middle section. It's the tesserae flooring. It's a floor. It's a mosaic floor, you know, in the middle of a villa, for example. It's a beautiful mosaic floor. And then I think it repeats back on itself, doesn't it, for the other side? Yeah. Repeats back. And in between, I've bordered it. So I've done dark colour here for the border, and then it's switching now to two borders of the light, and it will mirror back the other way. And the yarn is the Regia Merino yak, which is just marvellous for colourwork. Yeah, it's the 4-ply Regia Merino yak. And you're using, I think they're 3.5mm. Oh, yeah, it's on there. 3.5mm needles is using. And I think you're getting a beautiful tension with it. It's just, I love the colours. Again, very autumnal. We're very in the vibe, aren't we, this time? Definitely.
And I've just actually filmed a tutorial which is going to come out in November. People have been asking me for years, which is sweet of you, because 2 years ago, I wouldn't have felt remotely close. And I still feel like a bit of a fraud, because I'm not an expert. But basically what I've done is, over the years, is I've tried lots of different techniques. I've also watched lots of different videos, and I've found I've not seen the technique that I use anywhere.
No, I haven't.
This has been developed by trying something that doesn't work, take a bit of this, take a bit of that, pull together lots of different ways of approaching it.
But oddly, it was really strange, wasn't it? Because I've been doing some colour work for something else recently, and it gave me the opportunity to play around with my technique, and I came up with a technique that really works for me, and I told you about it one day, and you said, well, that's just what I do.
Yeah.
But Dan's is a bit different.
Well, you were just doing one element of what I do.
Yeah, that's right.
I just, basically everyone finds the approach that works for them at the end of the day, and it is all about trial and error, but this works. In whatever yarn I pick up, it seems to work. So it's coming out in November. Kay helps me dramatically in this tutorial, because I really don't know quite what to do and say. But you ask all the right questions.
Right.
Did some superb filming, and so I will be sharing the secrets. And it's actually the knitting of this that I showed you.
It is. Yes. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. I'm really proud of your work in that one.
Well, I'm loving it. Thank you for designing it. And
I just think the colours as well, it's just so striking.
It's cool.
When you do just two colours that are so contrasty like that, it's just really striking and beautiful.
What else is on your needles?
The other thing that I've got here now.
You do have a third thing, don't you?
Yes. I said that all wrong. Wrong. I do apologise.
No, if you wanted to terrify me greatly.
No, I do apologise.
You said it right.
Gosh, it's lovely to see this in the daylight, actually. I'll explain that comment shortly. But this is in my lovely festive... This is a festive bag that I got from... It's one of Emma's, I think, isn't it? Yes. It's one of Emma's bags at Moo and Mouse. I think I got this last year. Was this last year's, Emma? With the lovely, she's so adorable. I'm sure she had a name, this beautiful mouse. But she's got a tutu and she's got a little knitted scarf. Oh, just gorgeous. So she's in my Christmas bag. And it's I've sort of been calling it my bedtime cowl. It will have its own name, I think, at some point. But I cast this cowl on, actually, in the summer. Because I think it was the beginning of August I cast this on, because my bedtime blanket, which actually I need to get back to, but once I've finished this I'm going to pick that back up. But it had just got too hot, my bedtime blanket, to work on. So I wanted another project that was really easy and simple and relaxing knitting for bedtime. So I cast on this cowl, and I'm really close to the end, and I've just so enjoyed it. I really want to just cast on another, because it's such a joy. It really is simple, but look how pretty it is. Look how pretty this is now. Can you remember this? And I was moaning about that yarn at the beginning, but you know what? I'm embracing it, because I've got another one here that's a bit sort of more in your face, isn't it? And I think it all kind of balances itself. But I'm using 10 gram minis, so it'll be like 100 grams ish altogether. And all of these minis were a gift, part of a really amazing and generous gift that I got for my 50th birthday from my wonderful friend. So all of these minis came from that, and that just makes it, for me, it just makes it really special. Because I think, how many times have I said this to you, everyone? And I'm going to say it again. But for me, a huge portion of the joy of a project is the yarn that I'm working with, and the kind of feelings that are attached to that yarn, and the sentiments and the meaning, and it's all of the feels for me. And, if they're lovely yarn bases as well, then all the better. But because these all came from that lovely gift, and I went through them all and chose all of these pretty romantic, soft shades, because I just thought it would make the most beautiful cowl, and it really, really is. Isn't it just gorgeous? So all it is, down at the bottom, there's a rib, which I love. I think it's called a mistake rib. It's a 2x2 rib. I think originally when I spoke about this I might have said it was a 1x1 rib. It's not, ignore me. It's a 2x2 rib, but it's offset. So it creates this lovely sort of, like a sort of corrugated-y sort of look. It's really pretty. And then it's just stocking stitch all the way up, and then there'll be another rib at the top. So I'm on mini 9, I think now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just started mini 9, this sort of creamy colour that's just coming in. And then I'll go to the rib. So I've chosen the one that's going to be the rib, and I've got another pink one actually, because then I think that'll balance the pink at the bottom. It's a different pink, but you see, there'll be pink at the top and there was pink at the bottom, and I've got pink in here, so I think it'll all balance really nicely. And these minis are from all different dyers. They did have little notes attached to them so I would know which dyers they were. But some of them my friend didn't know, so it just said unknown. But this one that I'm putting in right now is an Eden Cottage yarn, and it's one of my favourite bases from Eden Cottage. It's the Brimham 4-ply, and the colour I believe was sand. Isn't it beautiful? So that one's going in now. And I've had minis from...
Did you wind that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Don't be mad at me, Sarah, if you're watching, but... So
Who's Sarah?
Sorry, Sarah's the lady that gave me the gift.
Oh.
Sarah wound them into these beautiful centre pull balls. When I've been pulling from the centre and my bag's been like down here on the floor, it sometimes was getting wrapped around itself. So I rewound them into little balls. I didn't do that with all of them, Sarah, just these ones, because they were getting tangled in my bag.
Look at that.
I know.
It's lovely.
Yeah, I mean, they're all beautiful.
It looks like a mouse's knitting yarn.
I've had, the dyers, I've had West Green Loft, I believe.
Oh, it's soft.
There's a few from West Green Loft, Fibre Fox, the Eden Cottage that I've just shown you, and then the others I think were unknowns. Just lots of really beautiful, pretty yarns, and I can't wait to wear them. I mean, how lovely is that? Oh, and because I've been knitting this at night time, with artificial light, I never really get to see it in daylight, and I think it's just so pretty. I'm so pleased with it. I just love it. And I'm using 3.25mm needles. That tends to be my favourite size for fingering weight cowls. This is fingering weight, I don't know if I said. Fingering weight. 3.25mm I really love for cowls. I've also used 3mm, and I love that too. I tend to use 3mm more for hats with fingering weight, because you get a tiny bit more of a dense fabric. But yeah, anything in that range I think would work super lovely.
Look at this. It's like a little bit. Oh no.
Oh no.
My yarn.
You've lost your yarn.
I knocked it off. Look. I'm playing yarn chicken.
Is that all you've got left?
No, I've got another skein, but I'm just about to finish a brown section.
Right.
And I'm hoping...
Oh, it looks great.
Yeah,
Gosh. Your projects are amazing, I've got to say.
I don't know about that.
I do.
Very sweet. It's the stacker jumper. Well,
look at that.
It's a vest.
It's a vest. It's a tank top.
Yes.
I can't wait to wear this.
I mean, the brown looks black on screen.
It does. It's
not.
Very dark brown.
It is, but it's clearly brown in the when you look at it in real life.
Yeah.
It's clearly brown, and it's actually, strangely, it's been harder to knit with now than it is when I've been knitting it at night.
Really?
And you would have thought that it would be harder to see at night, but actually the artificial light makes it easier to see. Isn't that interesting? So this is gonna... I
love it so much, I'm gonna wear it all the time.
So the colourwork section's down the bottom, and then it's plain up the top, but there won't be a lot of plain knitting, because then because it's... You'd be up to sleevage.
It's not a super long thing.
And across the...
Because
top anyway.
The idea is I'm going to wear it with a white, long-sleeved white shirt underneath, and the shirt will be longer than the tank top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the Let Lopi yarn, which is really great, and it's so interesting knitting something with the colourwork at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because normally, it's yoked at the top, and it is super different.
It goes,
which is fun.
The main body is purple, isn't it? Is that right? Is the main body the purple?
Yeah, it is.
We had this talk, didn't we, before, about what colour this is, and everybody told me what colour this is, and now I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Magenta.
So, yeah.
It might be magenta.
Yeah.
I always see magenta as a bit more pink, but whatever colour this is, it's beautiful, and I can't wait to have it. I think it's just going to be fantastic.
It's a really cool... You can still hold on to it if you want to.
I wasn't going to lose your stitches.
Oh, sorry.
I knew what you were thinking. We need to get some of those stoppery things.
Well, I haven't lost any stitches for a while.
No, but I do need to get some of those stoppery things. I don't normally lose stitches
on when I'm knitting in the round. It's, small projects on slippy, deepy ends. Yeah. That's where things can come a little bit unstuck.
Oh, it's just gorgeous. And I think the size looks good.
So I cast on 192 stitches. That's what I cast on. What brought us to that realisation was Kay tried on one of my jumpers, and the fit she quite liked.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, it makes sense then.
It made me feel a bit bad putting on a man-sized jumper and liking the fit, but, hey-ho.
Yeah, but how do I like my jumpers?
Yeah, the thing is, women's hips are bigger than men's hips, aren't they?
Yeah, but how do I like my jumpers?
Very slim fitting,
yes.
Yeah, I know. And
I cannot stand excess baggage. I like it to be, body form. Yeah, I do much prefer things, to fit close. So I wouldn't feel bad at all. And also...
We went down a needle size as well, I believe.
I'm not exactly chunky, am I?
No, you're not chunky. I'm just trying to make myself thinner in my head.
Well, I'm helping you, because I ain't chunky and I like things slim-fitting.
Right, okay.
So I'm assisting in your...
It's been nice to be described as slim-fitting.
In your thinness. Yes, so it's the stacker, let Lopey, really like the design. It's really cleverly done because...
It's beautiful.
Plain knitting, interest, plain knitting, interest, plain knitting, interest, plain knitting, interest.
And you've not got that much plain knitting before you start.
Shoulders.
Yeah.
Knitting flat. Interest. Finish off. Wear. Enjoy. Perfect.
That was all very excellently put. Well done, Dan.
So yes, really, really lovely design. I think lots of people would enjoy this. So I'd highly, highly recommend it, actually. And, you could really have some fun with your colour selections, too.
I think it's a great knit,
Yeah. And, it's
no
moving.
No sleeves, everybody. No sleeves.
Moving relatively quickly. What else is on your needles?
Oh, right. Okay, so...
It's something really exciting.
It is something really exciting.
Yes.
These are my Sockoween socks.
Oh.
So this is actually the yarn that you see me dye in a little bit. So you're getting a bit of a sneak peek. Well, more than a sneak peek. You are getting to see the yarn.
That looks like a spider trying to get out of your bag.
It's another...
No.
Where?
Oh, it was a horse.
No, it's a horse inside.
Look, when I saw that... I've got to tell you, right... it's this time of year. It is this time of year. Because this is the time of year where it starts to get cooler outside. All the spiders from the outside come inside. Yeah. So I'm in... We've got like a... It used to be... Well, it's a music room now. That sounds very posh. It isn't.
It's a little bedroom.
And that's where my drums are. And anyway, I was in there doing some practice. And I saw this thing move out of the corner of my eye. I'm not telling... It's the biggest spider I've ever seen in my life. It was ginormous. It's like...
He must have been sat there and when you disturbed him with your noise.
Maybe so. I'm cool with spiders, aren't I? And I do everything to take care of spiders.
Brian is not.
Do everything to take care of spiders and look after them. And, in fact, in our garden, we've got a double webbage going on. And I accidentally walked through one the other day. And I felt so terrible because that spider had worked so hard making that web. Isn't that funny? Tiny spider. And I'm there feeling guilty for the next 15 minutes because I broke his web or hers.
Yeah.
But massive spider, which I got outside, and it was just, and that's what that made me think of.
It did look a bit like spiderish, but it's a horse.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in another one of my lovely bags from Emma because apparently I just buy all the bags from Emma.
And have you got another one on the way?
That's a possibility that I may have bought another one. It's a bit like Emma Bridgewater mugs, the baby mugs, and I saw that they've just brought out their Christmas range, and I'm not.
Did you listen to our last radio show? came out last week. One of the questions, we had like a question time episode where lots of people have sent us in ideas for shows. One of those ideas was, do you collect anything? You know, could you talk about it a bit? And instead of us saying what we collect, the other person told the other person what they collect. And I informed Kate that she collected mugs. And
I don't collect mugs. It's just
you just have a lot of them.
No, I really like the small Emma Bridgewater mugs, and I've got a few. And
6.
There is 6. I thought there was 5, yes. But there is actually 6.
Yeah, so this is
but one of them belongs to Bryony, so that doesn't count.
Right.
But they've just brought out their Christmas range, and I was looking at them this morning, and I really like them, but I'm not mad on them, so I think I might be able to resist. One of them had Christmas biscuits. I don't know, I don't really find that a particularly festive theme, biscuits. Well, it's not, is it? Why is that festive?
No, it isn't festive, but I think perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, if you were in America, do you not get excited about
Christmas cookies? Yes,
so
you see, now it makes sense.
That's the market they're probably aiming
Now it makes sense. And then there was another one that had Christmas puddings on, which is new, but I didn't think they looked remotely like Christmas puddings. I'm not quite sure what they look like, but I didn't think they looked like Christmas puddings. So I'm not mad on them, so I think I might be able to resist.
Excellent.
But yeah, this is another one of my bags from Emma at Moo and Mouse. Right, so my Sockoween socks are well underway. So the 2 yarns that I dye up, that you will see me dyeing up, these are the actual yarns, because literally the minute I finished filming, and I mean the minute I finished filming, I wound these. They were cast on within probably half an hour of me finishing filming because I was just so excited. I will show you the sock, but I won't show you the yarn in the skeins until after you've seen the thing. How about that?
Yes.
And you will hear me say in the video that the way that I dyed it, the yarn might knit up a little bit naughtily. And I was happy with that because it's Halloween and it's, you know, mischief and all of that business. So I deliberately dyed it in that way because I knew it might do something a bit unusual. Now, it has done something unusual, but it's not done what I thought it was going to do. So, I mean, that's really cool, isn't it? It's gone its own way. It's like, you know, you're dyeing this and you think you know how I'm going to knit up. Well, no.
I'll show you.
I'll show you. So I will explain that a bit more when I can show you the skein. And after you've seen me dye it, I'll explain what I mean by that. But I'll show you the sock.
Yes.
Which is, I have to say, fabulous.
Can I just say, this looks like the wrapper of a chocolate orange.
It kind of does, doesn't it? I mean, I'll hold it there and then, yeah.
Just exceptional.
How lovely is that?
I mean, it's like every colour of this season is here.
I really, you know, gosh, I mean, what a joy this is to knit. I can't even tell you how joyous this is. So I'm doing my crunkled pattern. I think I did say that, and you'll see me say that on the video. I'm knitting my crunkled pattern because I knew it would work really, because it works with anything. In all honesty, if you've ever knit the crunkled socks, I know a number of you out there have, I'm sure you would agree that it will work with any type of yarn. Honestly, I say that hand on heart. But because this one I knew was going to be a bit mad, I thought I'm going to do the crinkle pattern. So the contrast is this beautiful, beautiful orange, which we actually created this shade of orange. This is not an orange from a powder.
So talk about, like,
it's like we
properly potion making.
We did do a bit of potion making.
That's coming up in part 2.
And we mixed up a mix to make this colour. And these colours are within the sock as well, you'll see that. So I think that's why it looks just so right together, because it's all coming from the same dyes. But there's a colour that's kind of missing from this sock, and I won't say any more than that. You will see when I dye up. You can probably guess what colour that is, and I will explain to you what's happened when I've dyed that up and how, you know, that's the sort of naughty element. But actually, do you know what? I'm going with it. It'll be fun to see how it pans out. It will absolutely be fun, and I'm kind of proud of the yarn that it's decided just to do its own thing. that sounds really stupid, doesn't it? When I've said that sounds really stupid, because I dyed the yarn, and the yarn's not a sentient being. But you understand I hope you understand what I'm saying with that. So yeah, I'm just knitting the leg, and I'm making the leg on these a bit longer than normal. I usually do about 45-ish rounds on a leg, but Bryony she does seem to be looking at the minute for socks that have got a longer leg when she's choosing her socks. So I'm deliberately knitting this one to more like 60 rounds, I think, so it's a bit longer for her. And I think I'll do a heel flap and turn in these ones. I haven't decided. I might do a butterfly heel, but I think I'm leaning just towards traditional with this. But the colours are not just so autumny and Halloweeny and pumpkiny and all of those sort of feels. It's lovely.
One of the special things I think about knitting is being able to, match your colours to the season. I think that's so sort of lovely. It sort of makes everything, you're outside, you're walking through the trees, which are, the leaves are dropping and the oranges, and then to come home and to have projects. There's been a few projects that we've actually shown today which have really been quite seasonal, and that's not been deliberate.
It's not been deliberate.
No.
Yeah, I mean, this was deliberate, but also
the other things weren't.
This reminds me a lot of bonfire night as well.
Yeah.
There's lots of sort of rich reds and oranges and darker colours. When you go to a bonfire, it's dark outside, isn't it? But then you see the flames and sparklers, and it just reminds me a lot of bonfire night too. So I think there'll be, once we get past Halloween, if I haven't finished them, I've got that whole feel of bonfire night as well to come in afterwards. Loving them.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because when you stop and think, you sort of think about every country has its own events that normally come through historical events that you end up celebrating, and there's going to be lots of weird ones across the world, but the weirdest one at the moment that I can think of is bonfire night. Celebrating bonfire night is the strangest thing. Celebrating and recreating what would have happened if the Houses of Parliament had been blown up by Guy Fawkes seems insane to me.
It does seem insane, doesn't it? But brilliant.
Woohoo! Look at the fireworks!
Look, the Houses of Parliament are exploding.
Let's burn Guy on the bonfire, because that's what would have happened. What?
And that's what you do.
That's insane.
You make an effigy of Guy Fawkes and you chuck him on the bonfire,
Penny for the guy, missus.
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, you don't see that really so much these days, do you?
All right, Governor.
But we did when I was young. People did penny for the guy. You had your guy on a trolley and you trolleyed it around to all the houses and knocked on and said penny for the guy.
Yeah, which I suppose is similar to trick-or-treating.
It is similar to trick-or-treating.
So perhaps I think was the English equivalent.
I agree. I think that is the English equivalent.
Because Halloween, we've said this before, Halloween was never a thing when I was a kid.
No, and I think because we've always had Guy Fawkes and Bonfire Night, it's so close. It's like the 5th of November.
Yeah.
It's so close to Halloween. And I think because that is ingrained in the sort of British tradition, and Halloween really has come from America, I would say, primarily, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's where it's been.
Why.
That's where it's been really embraced.
Yeah.
And it was interesting.
It's always existed. It's All Hallows Eve, isn't it? It's always existed, but...
We did a special Sockoween launch show, which was broadcast just at the end of September, for our Bakery Bear patrons, and on that we sort of spoke a little bit about Halloween and asked the audience a little bit about it, and also our special guest who we had on live, which is our Knitability editor Jen de Maria Keeler, and we were talking about Halloween and we were talking about how it's celebrated, and it's more of a fancy dress thing
in America.
Here,
that's as we understand it.
Here it's not at all. It's all spooky stuff. And that's it. There's no sort of, and there's never been.
I think it's getting more into the sort of fancy dress thing, and I think that's the influence. Coming over, but historically, it was like you were dressed up as a witch or a ghost or a skeleton, very sort of spooky.
I need to talk to my brothers about Mischievous Night.
Oh yeah,
because that was big when my brothers were young.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
They used to go out, and as I recall, I can't remember if that is the night before Halloween. I actually think, for For some reason, I think it's the night before bonfire night.
Oh, right, okay.
But I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
You see, I seem to think that I never did this, but I don't know why I didn't. I think because my brothers were so close in age and they could go do stuff together, they ended up doing more stuff like this.
And you were a bit younger, weren't
And I was just way too young because I'm quite a bit younger than them. I'm sure they would go off doing the penny for the guy thing. And if people didn't give them a penny for the guy,
oh, right.
that's when you chucked an egg at their house or something. Hence the mischievous night thing. I think that's actually what we call vandalism.
It wasn't done maliciously, and
no one ever came down to our house and said, your two sons have been naughty.
No, and if you'd said that to your mum, she'd have been like, "They're just,
they're just being kids.
They're just being kids. They're just having fun. They're not harming anyone."
No.
And it wasn't done maliciously.
No.
So I think it's just the attitudes, isn't it?
Should have given them a penny for the guy, shouldn't you?
Attitudes are just different, aren't they? And the world was different. And
yes.
Yeah.
Look. That's enough sort of teasing.
Yes, I'm keeping that there to show you again in a minute.
As we said at the start of the show, Sockoween is here. And what better way to celebrate Sockoween than with the most special episode ever of My Favourite Colourway. So yes, Kay's back in her dye pots for a special, extra spooky edition of My Favourite Colourways.
Over the last 7 years, I have created hundreds of gorgeous colourways. Hidden away in my library is the little book that contains nearly all my secrets. These are the recipes for creating all of my colourways, and in this series I'll be showing you some of my absolute favourites. I'll be taking you from undyed skein to finished colourway, because it's time for us to discover Welcome back everybody to another episode of My Favourite Colourways, and this My Favourite Colourways is very Halloweeny. We are in October now, so we're in the sort of we're in the midst of all of the Halloween fun, aren't we, or the build up to Halloween I should say. And this is sort of all prompted by our wonderful Sockoween knit-along, which is now underway. In order for me to personally participate in Sockoween, I actually wanted to dye up some yarn to use. So I thought it's a great opportunity to show you what colourway I'm going to be knitting my Sockoween socks in. So I looked through one of my dye books for some inspiration, for some Halloweeny inspiration. And I found this particular colourway, and I also actually looked it up on my Etsy shop, my old Etsy shop, which is still there, but there's never anything in it. But I can still see everything that was sold, so I can see photos of the colours. So I did that, and I found this colourway, and I thought, yes, I'm going to do that, because I remember when I dyed this up and I loved it, but I never got the opportunity to knit with it, so I thought this is perfect. So the colourway is a Harry Potter themed colourway, because I always think of Harry Potter as Halloweeny, and I did say actually, or we said when we started off our Sockoween knit-along that Harry Potter was perfectly acceptable. So it's going to be a Harry Potter themed colourway. The name of the colourway actually, it's inspired by book 2, Chamber of Secrets, and it's when Harry uses the flue powder and he says the word wrong, doesn't he, and he ends up down Nocturnalley, because that's the name of the colourway that I'm going to be dyeing up. So it's Nocturnalley, which is a variegated colourway, and I'm also going to be dyeing up a coordinating tonal. Now at the moment I don't know what colour that tonal is going to be. It's going to be a little journey of adventure, because although I remember what Nocturnalley looks like, I'm adjusting it slightly to make it a bit more Halloweeny. So because I'm doing that, I wanted to wait until I see the skein dyed up before I decide on whether I'm going to go for a purple toned or a sort of more pumpkiny orange toned. So we'll wait and see for that. But whatever colour that decides, that sort of dictates to me that it's going to be. I have already chosen a name for it because the name will work for both colourways. Because when he arrives, doesn't he, on Nocturnalley, but it's in a shop. Now, hang on. I kept getting the name of the shop backwards this morning. So it's Borgin and Burkes is the name of the shop. Not Burgin and Borkes, which is what was good. So it's Borgin and Burkes is the name of the colourway. Not Burgin and Borkes, which is what I was saying earlier today. So whether it's purple or whether it's a pumpkiny orange, I think that works for both. So really exciting. We're going to be doing a variegated with some tweaks. So even if you happen to have one of these skeins, I didn't dye it up a great deal, but you never know, you might have one hiding away somewhere in your stash if you bought one. Even if you have one, it's going to be slightly different because I've changed a couple of the colours and I'm going to be making it a bit more intense of a colour. So variegated and a lovely tonal, very witchy and Halloweeny inspired, and I've got my Witch's Brew Yankee candle, which is scaring me right now because the flame's so high. I need to trim the wick. It's sort of like I'm a bit worried about it, so I'm going to deal with that. But the first thing we need to do in order to dye up our yarn is, of course, to see what we're going to need. So let's have a look at that. Right, so what are we going to need to dye up our lovely yarn? First of all, we're going to need the yarn. So I've got 2 skeins here. I'm just going to do a skein of each. So I'm just dyeing this up just for me. So I've got 2 skeins, fingering weight yarn. This is the 85-15 that I really like. It's a 4-plied yarn, 85 superwash merino and 15% nylon. It's a lovely soft bouncy yarn. So I've got 2 skeins on my lockable thingies. And then I've got my washing up bowl for soaking and rinsing. I've got my pots for dyeing. I've used these for years. They are just plain stainless steel pots, casserole pots that I'm going to use for dyeing. So I've got 2 of those today. I've got my protectors for my work surface. So I've got a spare piece of the oilcloth and some tea towels there. My big mixing spoon, some rubber gloves, and a mask, of course, always a mask. And then we've got our mordant, which for me is citric acid. The mordant, if you don't know, this is the chemical, I suppose, that makes the dye permanently stick to the yarn. You can use vinegar if you want to, white vinegar, but I don't like the smell, and I've always used citric acid. It's easier to store. This is food friendly, so there's no danger at all. It's what they put into like fizzy sweets. I've got my measuring spoon, which is, as always, my 1/8 of a teaspoon. So that's the measure that I'll be using. So when I say half a teaspoon, it's a 1/8 of a teaspoon is the measure. I've got my dye book with my recipe, which is a good job because this one I've not done for some years. So that'll be fun. And then of course we've got the dyes. So I'm using 4 colours today. Now 2 of them I've swapped out and I've tweaked, and I'll tell you why I've done that. But the first colour, well, I'll tell you the 2 colours that are the same that I've used previously, and they are jacquard dyes, and one of them is cherry red, which is, as it describes, it's a very bright cherry red. And then the other is gold ochre. It would... Don't make me laugh. It wouldn't be, really, would it? My favourite colourways without gold ochre. And then the other 2 colours are both landscape dyes, and these are the ones that I've swapped out. When I dyed it originally, I used all jacquard, but I've swapped 2 of them. So the first one that's landscape is Currawong. I think I'm at Currawong. Am I saying that right this time? It's a bird, a big black bird. And this is black, it's jet black. Now, previously I used jacquard black, which is called jet black actually, but I find that it does break a little bit, and it can be, I don't know, sometimes it seems to have a bit of brown in it. But whereas this one I always find is a completely jet black, and because this is Halloweeny, you know, I wanted that proper black. So we've got Currawong, and then the other one I swapped out, I did previously use violet from jacquard. Now violet, it's actually a dye I don't use that often from the jacquard one, because I find that it does lean very blue for me. There is a lot of blue in violet, but I just find that it can actually look blue sometimes when I've dyed with it, rather than it looking more purple. So I've swapped it out with cyclamen from Landscape Dyes. This one, it's a very Halloweeny purple. If you imagine that kind of bright Scooby-Doo sort of purple, do you know what I mean? That's the sort of purple that it is. Now, I haven't used this for quite some time, but I sort of remembered what it looked like in my head, and I've done a bit of a test and I've checked the colour card online. So I'm happier with cyclamen rather than violet. I think this will be more of a purple, which is what I want. So that's the 4 colours we're going to be using. Everything else we've covered. So now it's time to soak our yarn. Okay, so in my bowl here, I've just got some warm water from the tap with a couple of scoops of citric acid, or just 1 scoop really. We've only got 2 skeins of citric acid that I've just dissolved into there. So I'm going to drop in my skeins, just push them down, and just let them have a bit of a soak for about half an hour or so, or really as long as you want. There's no sparkle in this yarn, so we're okay to give them a longer soak if you want to, but half an hour it should be enough. There we go. So I'm going to let that hang out in there for a little bit, just to soak and absorb all of that citric acid into the fibres, and I'll get everything ready to do our dyeing. Okay, so I've got my pot of water here. I've only got about 1/3 full of water in there, and I've got a scoop of citric acid in there as well. We don't want a ton of water with this one, because if you have loads of water, the dyes move around quite freely, and I want to get the dye onto the yarn primarily rather than it dissipate into the water. So there's only about 1/3, it's only about 1/3 full. So I'm going to grab my skein, just give it a squidge and a bit of a shake, and then in it goes. And as it goes in, I'm just going to move it around. So in some areas, you know, get sort of like what's underneath on top, and you know, we want to make this as variegated as we can, basically. So we don't want to have just the top layer of the yarn, do you know what I mean? We want it all mingled up so that we get yarn from all areas of the skein. Right. So I'm going to pop my mask on and we will put in our first colour. Right, so the first colour that's going in is our Colourways, our black. And I'm going to use about 1/8. So about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Yeah. Okay, and I'm just going to, you can see if it's dropped on, that's fine. I'm just going to sprinkle it over the surface. We've done this lots of times before. So just sprinkle it all over. Now with this particular variegated, I'm not going to be doing multiple layers of colour. So what I mean by that is, do you know how quite often I'll move the skein and then do that same colour again? I'm not going to do that for this colourway. We're just going to have 1 layer of each colour. So there is a possibility that it might do a bit of a stripy thing, or something, you know, a bit naughty might happen. However, because this is a Halloween colourway, I feel like that's acceptable. That's the first colour in. Let me just put the top on that. And then what I'm going to do is, just with my spoon that I used, I'm just going to push it down a little bit. Not a huge amount, but just enough so that all that dye is in contact with the yarn. You see, I'm not moving it around too much. Can you see how there's still spaces of white? It will naturally sink down and go into the water down there, so we will get some areas underneath which have got a sort of greyish hue. That's fine, you know, this is a variegated, so that's part of the fun really, to see what happens. So I'm not going to touch that now, I don't want to move it. I'm just going to leave it be for a few minutes until all of that black has absorbed into the yarn. Okay, that's had a few minutes now, and the way that I test that it's, you know, it's set enough for me is just take your big spoon and lift up some of the water and just drop it down, and you can see that that's pretty much clear, isn't it? So we know that all of that dye that was on top there has gone into the yarn. We might find when we lift it up that the water's a bit grey, but that's fine. So now I'm going to lift it and move it. So let's have a little look. So you can see actually there's not that much in there, which is brilliant. So we've got a nice distribution of black all the way through there, which is great. But then we've got areas that are still fairly white, and then others that are more grey. So let's give this a little move. Lovely. So I've just rearranged it a bit. Let's give it a little move around, and then we can pop on our second colour. So you can see actually that colourway, if you wanted something that was just a variegated black, grey, white, you could just go with that. I mean, it looks lovely. But we're going to go with the second colour. So it's the cyclamen going in next, which is hopefully a nice bright Scooby-Doo-ish, Halloweenish purple. So I'm going to do about the same amount again and sprinkle it over, and I'm actually going to try and aim for the areas which are paler rather than the areas which have got the intense black on. Try and go for the areas which are sort of paler and fill them in, like fill in those paler areas. Oh, it is a lovely bright purple, can you see? Oh yes, I'm going to add a bit more actually. I'm going to have a bit more of that, I like it. A bit more over there. So this is what it's all about really, you know, if you happen to like a colour when it goes in, add a bit more, maybe even a bit more. So I've probably gone for around about 2/8 of that cyclamen. And then again, just push it down a little bit. Don't go mad, just a tiny bit, because I want to keep that intenseness of colour. That's a great purple, isn't it? Okay, so once again, just let that set for a few minutes and then we can move on to the next colour. Right, so that's had a few minutes. That one's set really quickly actually. I do find some colours set quicker than others. Why that is, I'm not sure. But that's the purple done. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. I'm going to move the skein and then we'll do the next colour. I can't wait to lift this up because I think this purple is fabulous. Ooh, look at that. It's a great purple. I think that's a brilliant Halloweeny purple, don't you? So let's give that a little move again. And as I move it this time, I'm also going to turn the skein like that, because then we'll make sure that we're getting good amounts of dye on both sides of the skein as well. So drop it back in again, give it an arrange as it goes in. I think this actually will look a little bit different to how I've dyed it before, so that's fun. It might look a bit more kind of speckly, I think, somehow. So, I mean, I'm excited about that. So next colour is the red. This is cherry red. Now, I seem to remember when I've used this cherry red before, it's a little bit it can be a little bit naughty. And by that, I just mean, I'm just not sure if it's a bit clumpy, or I'm not sure what it was. I might be remembering completely incorrectly. How much am I going to use? I'm going to use a bit less of this because I find that with the landscape dyes, you can generally be a bit more generous. With the jacquard, I find they're more concentrated of a colour. So I'm going to go with about 3/4. Let's try that and we'll see what happens. So again, same thing. I'm going to go for the areas that are palest. And I'll go on some of the other areas as well, because what's going to happen when it hits that purple is we probably are going to get some blue tones going on in there, but that's okay because it won't be everywhere. let's see what that's like. Oh, it looks okay at the moment, actually. It's quite a good sort of blood red, isn't it? It's making me think of Halloweeny as well. I might add a bit more. That's all right, I'm kind of happy with that. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. So I probably will have used about 1/8. So I'll just pop it over here. And a bit over there. A bit in the middle. Because what's going to happen is, when I put the yellow in the gold, when I put the gold in, and it hits some of these red areas, we're hopefully going to get some oranges going on in there as well. So we'll have a bit of red and we'll have a bit of orange going on. Lovely. So I'm going to leave that again just for a few minutes to set that layer, and then we've just got one final colour. Okay, so the red has taken quite a long time, and maybe this was the thing that I'd got in my head about this particular colour. It's not brilliantly behaved, I find, and it has taken probably twice as long to set, I would say, as the other colours. And it's still mildly pink, just in that area there. I mean, it's still quite red actually there, but I'm just going to go with it, because whatever red is left in there, the rest of the skein will absorb it, and if we get a little bit of pink in other areas, then, you know, let's just accept that. Right, so here we go. Yeah, can you see? It's full of bits. Can you see all the little bits of red? This is what it is about this colour. It sort of leaves, I mean, what is that? This is why I don't think I use this colour very often, because I just didn't like the way it behaved. But that's, as a colour, you know, that's left there, that's not too bad. And we've got a nice blood red colour coming through here, so that's okay. So let's just move it a little bit, and we'll do our final colour. Now, what this final colour is going to do is it's going to, where it hits that red, and I do want a bit more red there, so let's just move that a little bit more. Where it hits the red, we're going to get some oranges coming through, and we've got to have some orange, haven't we, for Halloween? There we go, that's better. I can tell now in the pot that I've pretty much got half of a skein that's got some red on and half that hasn't. So I think we are going to get a little bit of stripiness going on, possibly when I knit it up, but I'm all right with that. It's Halloween, anything can happen. Listen to me, all free about my pooly yarn. Okay, so last colour is my beloved gold ochre. So let's go with 1/8 and see how we get on. So first of all, I'm going to hit this red area with a nice amount to get a nice intense orange over that area. And then we will put a bit on the other side, on the other bit as well. I'm going to go with a little bit more, I think. That looks good. And then again, just push it down a little bit with your spoon. I'm going to crank up my temperature a bit, and I can see that that is changing that red to a lovely rich sort of burnt orange. And then just go over this other area, so who knows what it's going to do to the other areas, that gold colour. But can you see now how this is a lovely, if I lift it up a bit, can you see it's like a lovely sort of deep burnt orange colour? Gorgeous. It'll be fun to see how this is going to knit up. So that's the last colour. So now I've notched up the heat underneath. I'm going to bring that to, you can see it's already bubbling. You probably can't, but I can. It's already bubbling a little bit there. So that's a good temperature. And then I will just, as soon as the whole area is sort of simmering, I'll turn that off, pop it outside to cool down. Okay, so that's our fantastic Nocturnalley all dyed up. I cannot wait to knit with this. Seriously, I'm going to be drying it faster than lightning so I can cast on this afternoon. I just can't wait. So that's Nocturnalley all done and cooling. Come back in part 2 when we are going to be dyeing up that beautiful Halloweeny tonal. So I will see you back soon.
What a start! Oh my goodness, That's beyond gorgeous. Wait till you see it in the skein, though. It's like...
Oh, it's beautiful skeined up.
Just... Sometimes, for me, that's when yarn's at its most beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I was sad to unskein it.
But it must have been...
to wind it.
Were you not excited, though, and like, oh, this is going to be amazing? Because, you know...
Yeah.
You got it on the needle so fast.
I did. I mean, am I showing it now or right at the end?
Well, let's just show it at the end like we normally do.
Got to wait a bit longer.
I mean, clearly you were like super excited though, because I've never seen you skein it up so fast.
No, I was really, really excited to knit it up, and I just loved the theme as well.
Yeah. It all comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, that whole scene of Harry Potter. It's very spooky, isn't it? When he, you know, uses the flu powder wrong and ends up in the creepy shop, and it's just all got that spooky feel. Yeah, so it's great.
Wait till you see the Borgin and Burkes.
You said it right. You did. Didn't you? Oh, I give in.
Or is it Birkin and Borgs?
It's not
Borgin and Borkes?
It's not, no, it's Borgin.
Borgin and Burkes.
It's Borgin and Burkes.
Got it. Wait till you see the Borgin and Burkes. It's like, yes. I mean, like, just perfection. And, like, making your own potion. Never done that before. That's super cool.
No, we've never done what I did. I've done it several times before when I've been dyeing yarn, but I've never done it.
That's when it gets really fun.
Yeah.
You know, when you're like making your own things up.
Yeah.
Because then it's completely bespoke, isn't it?
Well, it is. And
that's an interesting thing, actually, I think, for like budding people out there who are giving this a try. If you want to be really totally one-off and bespoke, make your own.
Make your own colour.
Well, and Kay's going to show you how in part 2.
Yeah, do a bit of mixing. It's just really fun. I had no idea how it would come out, and you will see. I think I say that. I honestly had not tried it before, no idea, and it's just fun. Just fun to try things, you know. What's the worst that could happen? What
a start. Oh, yes, part 2, Borgin and Burkes. Even I'm struggling with it now. But right now... In the Sockoween vibe, baby, let's have a look at some gorgeous socks as I ask Kate Jones, what's off your needles?
I have 2 pairs of socks, everyone.
And these are actually the socks which you're showing everyone how to make in the Absolute Beginner Magic Loop sock knitting series.
So it's this lovely pair of shorties. So yeah, these are the exact socks that I knit during the tutorial for the Magic Loop. And I just love how they've come out. I can't remember the last time I knit just a plain pair of socks like this. Especially shorties, you know, they go so quick. And it was just lovely to see how this yarn was going to knit up, because this was also a little test of this yarn.
Oh yeah, because we'd done a pre-review.
Yeah.
And then we filmed a post-review as well, so that's coming as well in a few weeks.
A new yarn, and I just love it. I think it's so pretty, isn't it?
Is it the Malabriga Ultimate Sock?
It is. I've got the remainder here, which is probably, I must have 50 grams or
they
maybe
call
a bit
it
under.
The remainder. It's the yarn that remains. Do you remember that advert?
Yeah.
With that dude. They call it the remainder. Is the number that remains.
What was that an advert
It was
for?
A dude. I think it was a guy from, a maths teacher from America who had been sponsored by Microsoft Surface. Right. It was an advert that they played over and over again.
Yeah, so it's Malabrigo Ultimate Sock, that's covering up the name. And this colour that I used is called...
Rosalinda?
Rosalinda. Would you say Rosalinda or Rosalinda?
If it's ROS, I'd say Rosalinda.
Rosalinda. Whoops. Rosalinda. And I loved it. Absolutely loved the yarn. It's blocked beautifully. They've not been worn yet, obviously, but it's a 75-25. I've got no reason to think that they won't wear, you know, as well as you would think for a 75-25. And they were just a joy to knit. The yarn's gorgeous. So if you've never used this yarn, it's a new one from Malabrigo Ultimate Sock.
Don't miss Kay's review.
Yeah, I've done a review of it, but I would say give it a go. You know, if you love knitting socks and you haven't tried it, absolutely give it a go. This one, I don't know how like the darker colours would knit up, or ones that are more variegated, because this one, all the colours are similar, aren't they? So it might be you get some swirls and things going on. But in terms of these, I'm really happy with how they've knit up.
Lovely.
I think they're lovely. So that's the first pair.
What else is off your needles?
I've got another pair of socks, and oh my gosh, I'm so glad I managed to finish these because it was a bit of a push to finish them.
It's going to be amazing.
But there was a specific goal I had, and I've met that goal, which is good. But these are the Rumple socks that I've knit for Dan. I'm putting it on a large blocker. They don't fit, as always, with Dan's socks, but it just gives you a chance to see the pattern. So these are the Rumple socks. And I'll show you the other side, actually, because saying that, they don't really have a jog. Because of the nature of the pattern, you can see this is where the jog would be. It doesn't really have a jog because of the nature of the pattern, which I think is another benefit of it. But yeah, this is my Rumple design, which the pattern for it isn't out yet, but it will be coming later in the year. I've already knit a pair of these socks. If you remember, they were a gold pair.
Later this year?
In November sometime.
Right. Gosh.
All I've got to do is write the pattern and get a couple of lovely people to test it for me. So I'm hoping I will be able to do that in the next, month or so. I'm hoping to have them out before the end of the year, certainly. But we will see how that goes. So yeah, I managed to finish Dan's socks. So there's one and there's the other. And this is a bit of a naughty yarn. But if you remember, I'll show you the other sock in a sec, but if you remember with this yarn, this is one skein of yarn. And what I did was I dyed it in such a way where I knew that the latter part of the skein would be much less saturated with colour than the beginning of the skein. Because you do get that quite a lot, don't you, with certain dye techniques. And I thought it would be fun to see if we could actually use that in a creative way. And so what I did was I did cuffs, heels and toes from the centre of the ball, and then the body of the sock from the outside of the ball. And it largely has worked well. I did say when I was knitting these that I thought the second sock we might find as we knit through it that it starts to sort of fade off, that saturation of colour, and that has happened. But these socks are huge. These are 72 stitches and the foot is like 12 inches long. So I think if you were to knit a standard 64 stitch sock, you might get away with them looking pretty much the same. So this is the first sock, and then this is the this is the second. You can see it sort of started off pretty well in terms of them looking similar, but then as we got down the foot, can you see there's a difference there? But you know what, I'm really, you can probably tell, I am trying to embrace the naughty yarns rather than just dismissing them. I still don't like the yarns that do those massive pools, blocks of pooling. I still can't be doing with that. But things like this, you know, I can live with that. And you said you don't mind. You're not bothered, are you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So. Gorgeous.
You know what
I can't wait to wear them. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm so pleased to have got them done.
Look. It's time for some Burkes and Borg's.
Stop it.
So without further ado, let's head back to Kay as we finish off my favourite colourways.
Welcome back, everybody, to my favourite colourways, where we are all in the witchy Halloweeny moods this time. We've got our variegated skein all dyed up, so now it's time to dye up that coordinating skein. Oh, can't wait. This is for my cuffs, heels and toes on my socks. So let's get back to the dye pots. Okay, so here we are now, ready to dye up our tonal, our coordinating tonal, and I've decided to go with an orange shade because we have recently dyed up a purple, I seem to remember, as a coordinating, so let's go with the orange. And this one's a bit more fun because it uses two colours. I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I've got a jug here, just a plastic jug that I keep in with my dyeing things, and what I'm going to do is mix my own orange. So I'm going to use the two colours that we used within the variegated skein to make the orange, so that I know then it's definitely going to coordinate. So I'm going to pop into my little jug about a full eighth I would say, of the gold, and probably half as much initially. I wouldn't normally put the gold into the red, but I don't use this red very often. So I'm going to put in about half of the red there. This is entirely an experiment. I've done this sort of mixing of colours before with dye powders. I've done this, but I've never tried this colour. So this is entirely an experiment. Now at the moment that doesn't look very red, does it? Because it won't do. I mean, the particles need to be wet to sort of show up the colour. And I didn't put in as much red as I feel we're going to need, because I'm going to layer on some colour on top. I've got about half a pot of water heating up. I'm going to dump into the pot about an eighth maybe. And now you should see, can you see, it does look orange, doesn't it, as it goes down? And you can also see those blooming red particles of dye, look, that it just doesn't seem to dissolve very well, that cherry red. But you can see the sort of colour we're getting. So go in with your big spoon. Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice, isn't it? Gosh, it looks like a deep honey sort of colour, doesn't it, at the moment? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely got orange tones going on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the yarn into this to give it an initial kind of wash of colour. We'll see what we've got, and then I'm going to layer on some of that mixture that I've got. So we're going to get some lovely tones coming through, because I've got two colours of dye in my little potion mix. Hey, that works really well for Halloween, doesn't it? I've created my own little potion. So now we'll get the yarn in and see what we can see. Grab our yarn, bit of a shake, and let's drop it in. I'm going to get my big spoon. I'm going to drop it in fairly rapidly. Oh, I like it. Look at that. Oh, a lovely colour. It's really nice. There we go. Move that around. Drop it back in. That's a great colour. But at the moment, it looks more summery, I would say, than Halloweeny. We need to get it a bit more intense. So if you just give it a quick sort of move around like that, you'll see that, can you see how the water now is virtually clear? It does absorb really quickly when you've not got too much dye in there. Gosh, what a pretty colour. It's like sort of clementines, isn't it? It's so fun mixing your own colours, because, you know, you just never know what you're going to get. And I could probably not really create this exactly the same again, because we're mixing them, and I didn't weigh the dye powder. You know, if I was doing this as more of a sort of production line, I would weigh my dye powders so that I would know exactly how much was going in. So now at the moment we've got this beautiful tonal sort of clementine-y colour. So let's now layer on a bit more of our mix. So just go all the way over, and it might break and we might get some areas of red. That looks pretty good at the moment. Can you see how now that's really intensified the colour? And I can see there was a bit of colour breakage. Can you see how there's a little dark spot there? You might not be able to see it. There's a little dark spot. That's all right. See, that makes it way more interesting of a colour, doesn't it? I haven't given that any time at all, because I don't mind if it all mingles into the water. That top layer there has received a hit of colour, so I'm just going to move that now. And you can see we have got more intense areas. This is way lighter. So I'm just going to give that a little move. We've still got some orange in the water, and that's absolutely fine. And let's just do that again, because we've got dye powder in here, so we might as well use it. So I've got that, and I'm going to just finish off what I've got in there. So just finish off. So all together, I think I had a full eighth, didn't I, of the gold, and then about half of the red. Just give it a little push. And that will have added some really lovely tones to our orange. It will probably look, you know, even though we've used the same colours as what's in our main skein, because we had all those other colours going on, this orange will look slightly different to the other orange because we haven't got all of those other colours that are influencing it. But it should still look good against it because we've used the same colours. And I think it will be good to have a nice clear brightness of orange against that more moodiness of the main skein. I've got a tiny bit left in there. Don't want to lose it, so just dump that in. And then immediately I'm just going to pick that up. Have a little look. Can you see now here we've got these quite intense areas, and that's lovely. If you think it should be a deeper orange, then, you know, add a bit more. But I'm going to go with that because I quite like all those different tones. We've got light orange going on, and then we've got some deep tones, and I think that'll make an interesting coordinating. Right, so my heat is up, and once that starts to simmer, I'm going to pop it outside to cool with the other one. Okay, so we can rinse our yarn now. It's both cooled off. It's still a tiny bit warm, but it's completely absorbed all of the colour. Everything's clear, so we're good to go. So I'll do the variegated one first. So just give that a squidge. And it is clear in there. I can't see any of those red bits actually, so they must have absorbed in. Oh, and I think it looks lovely. We are definitely going to get a bit of stripage going on here because you can see the two halves of the skein here. This has got mainly the orange. This one doesn't have so much of the orange, but that's okay. It's Halloween. So just dump it into your bowl. I've got just some warm water with a little bit of wool wash in here. Give it a wish around. You might find, because we've used red, you can sometimes get a bit of seepage from that. And that's normal really for red colours. It looks okay actually. It looks okay in there. And then give it a squidge. My skein's got a bit twisted actually, I can feel it, but we'll sort that out outside. You can see the water is just very mildly coloured. That's fine. So that's our lovely main skein. I'm going to use the same water for the second skein. I don't like to be wasteful of water and it'll be fine. So same thing. Let's give that a nice wish around. I think these two colours actually are going to look lovely together. Squidge. And then we can, what I'll do actually, they're not going to dry outside now, we're into October, but I will take them outside just to give them a really good squidge. And then I will dry them in front of a fan. Okay, so our lovely skeins are dry. I put these in front of the fan on like super warm because I wanted them to dry really quickly, and they've done really well. So yeah, they're both dry and I think looking fantastic. I can't wait to cast these on, honestly. I'm literally going to wind this as soon as we've finished and cast them on. So here's our lovely Nocturnalley with the sort of rich oranges and reds and purples and golds and black, all of the spooky goodness. So let's, as always, take that off and then just give it a little bit of a tidy up. I think one of the strands, yeah, did go the wrong way. There we go. So I just literally, put my hands in and just straighten it all out, straighten even, because you do quite often get a few strands that just come loose, and I find that there's usually one strand or one or two strands that are just particularly long, and I think it's just where they've tied up the skein. One of the strands has just got a bit long. There's two on there still, two ties, but I'm going to move this one down a little bit just so that there's one at the bottom and one at the top of the skein, because I don't like the skeins looking too messy with ties. It's nice to have them nice and neat. That's it. Right, and then we just need to skein it up. Seven. Oh, it looks lovely. Oh my goodness, it looks so pretty in the skein. Oh, it looks so nice. It does look quite a bit different to when I've dyed it before. I can't fully remember the technique I used, and so I think it's slightly different, but my goodness, it's so pretty in the skein. So I'm going to do this lovely orange one now, and I do think the two together will be really good. It also, this colour also reminds me a bit of pumpkin juice, and that is a Harry Potter thing, isn't it? Pumpkin juice. The nurse says to Harry, doesn't he, when his arm's gone all floppy with no bones, he said, "What did you expect, pumpkin juice?" When it's skelly grow. Let's just have a little look. Have I got any of the... Right, that's okay. So on this one, we do still have the 3 ties. But can you see? Let me show you. Look, I don't know if you can see, but that's a tie there. Can you see how close the knot is there to the end? And what's happening is, with all the pulling and pushing in the dye pot, it's coming undone. And all it would take is for them to tie the knot a bit further down. So, yeah. Right, okay. I'm going to remove one of these ties. I'm going to remove this one. Let's just snip that one. And then just skein this one up as well. And this is super lovely too. Okay. Gosh, this one's beautiful too. So that's our 2 skeins, so let's just take a closer look. So, that's our beautiful yarn all dyed, and I am so thrilled with it, honestly, because like I said, I had a bit of a memory on what it looked like, and it has come out slightly different because obviously the technique I've used must be slightly different to what I used originally, but I absolutely love it. I think the colours are just fantastic. You've seen a close-up already, but oh, look at that. I can't wait to cast these on. So these are going to be my Sockoween socks. So we've got Nocturnalley, and we've got, oh gosh, Borgin and Burkes. Did I get that right? Not sure, think so. Yeah, so our 2 Harry Potter Halloween inspired colours. I'm going to use the contrast for cuffs, heels and toes. I don't know what heel I'm going to do yet. I might use my butterfly heel, because that's a heel I've been using an awful lot just lately, because I think I'm going to knit my crunkled pattern again. It's one of my absolute favourites, and it just works with every single yarn. So I think I'm going to knit the crunkled socks, and I might put in a butterfly heel, but I'll decide that once we get going. But I'm definitely using the orange for cuffs, heels and toes with this for the main body. And I'm going to predict how it's going to knit up, and I could be completely wrong, but I think there might be a bit of stripage going on with the colour, but actually I'm cool with that, because I just think it will suit the theme, and I think it will, you know, the whole Halloween spooky unusual things going on kind of vibe. So I'm really excited to see how it's going to knit up, but that's what I predict for it. Who knows, I might be completely wrong, you will see. So I hope you really enjoyed that, and I hope it might inspire you to go and dye your own spooky Halloween inspired yarn. So thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time for more my favourite colourways.
Now I'm really in the Sockoween vibe. Oh yes, that Borgin and Burkes is blooming marvellous.
It is gorgeous, and you know, let me tell you, I'm not really an orange person.
Oh, I like orange.
Well, historically, I've never really been into sort of oranges and yellows, but just lately I kind of am, and maybe it's because orange is associated a lot with sort of autumn, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Show them in the cakes.
Right, so this is the gorgeous tonal. Oh.
Perfect.
My goodness. I mean,
it's
really...
like a sun.
No, it's so... Look at it compared to my bunting. Can you see it next to my bunting? How...
Gorgeous.
Yeah, how really perfectly pumpkiny and Halloweeny orange is that? So that's the Borgin and Burkes.
Well done.
And then here we go with the main skein now.
Wow.
I mean, it is lovely, isn't it? I'll show you the outside so you can see all those gorgeous colours. But what happened when I dyed this is you can see all of that lovely purple is kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
So it has, I thought what might happen is that it might sort of do a stripy thing. So you might get, you know, a swirly stripe where there'd be more purple in one bit and more of the sort of reds and blacks in the other. It hasn't done that. You know, I'm getting one half of the skein more kind of reds and blacks with just the odd bit of purple. And then all of the purple primarily is in that second half of the skein. So do you know what? It's fine. I did think initially what I might do, I might still do this. I might, for the second sock, pull from the centre. Well, I won't actually pull from the centre. What I would do, because I don't like pulling from the centre, I always think pulling from the centre, it's like the yarn is extra twisty. Yeah. I think there's an extra twist in it when you pull from the centre. And also I don't like it when the yarn collapses in on itself. I can't be doing with all that. So I never actually pull from the centre. So what I might do, I'm going to decide when I finish the first sock. But if I decide to do that, so knit the other sock from the other end of the ball, I will just take the remaining cake and just wind it from the beginning. Just rewind it so that then the outside is on the inside and the inside's on the outside. You understand what I mean, don't you? And then knit the second sock so that I get all of the lovely purples in the second sock. And then they'd be like fraternal twins, wouldn't they? They'd be like, you know, spooky fraternal twins.
Perfect.
And then I'd get all the fun of knitting all that purple as well. Mm. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that might just be a nice, fun experiment to do. But I really don't mind that that's what the yarn decided to do. I really, you know, I'm amazing myself. Because you know what I'm like about things like that. But I think because this one is knitting up so beautifully, there's no pooling or anything like that.
No.
That's why I'm not really minding it. And I'm actually looking forward to knitting the second sock with it looking slightly different, the colour, because it's like I'm knitting a new sock all over again. Yeah. It doesn't feel like second sock syndrome sort of thing. So yeah, embrace whatever your yarn wants to do. I say embrace it.
Beautiful. Now, there's one more my favourite colourways to come in this series, and that's coming in November. Yeah. It's going to be another seasonal treat, I'll be willing to bet.
Yeah, I didn't say the name. You did. I did say the name of this, but not here with you. But of course, this is Nocturnalley.
Yeah.
Nocturnalley, Borgin and Burkes. Sorry, I just felt like I had to say it.
Birkin and Borgs and Diagonally.
Oh, it wasn't Diagonally.
I know.
Diagonally, as Ron says.
So
no,
yes.
Harry.
There's one more, my favourite colourways to come in November, but next time we're going to be finishing off our season of Walking the Wall, and I sort of can't believe it, to be honest. It's like,
last one.
It feels like 2 minutes ago. I can remember vividly the very first walk, and now here we are at the end, and you know we're finishing off in a very special place to us, and it's a very special landscape because within the landscape it tells, in my opinion, it tells the story of the end of the wall and what comes afterwards in one walk. So for me, it's one of the best. I mean, potentially it might even be the best walk of the series, but don't know yet because I haven't filmed it yet. But it's coming up next time, and it's going to be strangely emotional.
Yeah, I think so, because it's been such a personal thing for you.
It's been a personal journey, this, you know, like Kay's just said, and now that we've reached the end, it's weird. It's weird, and you know, it's been so lovely to be able to spend so much time on the wall this year filming this series. So the whole thing, it's been really hard work. It's been the biggest production we've ever done.
Yeah.
But it's a subject which we both adore. So, you know, really great fun now to sort of get to the end, tell the end of the story, and then get ready for next year.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Right now, though, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
So Sockoween is well underway.
It is.
If you want to come and learn how to make perfect magic loop socks and join in the knit along and win lots of prizes and get access to the special knitability that's out next week, and also watch the Sockoween launch show and all the other amazing Sockoween events, sign up to become a Bakery Bear patron and you'll be able to access all of those things. Also, if you are taking part in the Great British Coastal Challenge, walk or run, I will be updating the Facebook group and also the Runkeeper groups with our up-to-date mileage next week. So if you want to find out where we're at, and we're doing pretty good, not far to go now. Kay's like Mrs. Slick. She's been like well on the ball and updating.
Yeah, well, the knitters, I've been doing the updates every single week this year. I might have missed one, but yeah, every single week I've been doing an update, and we're currently
and with a map too, because I do like a map.
Map every time.
Yes.
Yep. We're currently knitting our way through Cornwall, but I am a bit bothered. You know, I wanted to say to everybody, get your projects in there. If you've knit something and you haven't put it in that Ravelry group, or if you don't want to use Ravelry, you can email us with your finished things and I'll add them in.
And also keep knitting.
Keep knitting, because we've got to get from Cornwall all the way back up to here where we are, County Durham, on the east coast, by the end of the year. So I think we're about something like 70% or something of the way, around 75%. So we will do it, won't we? But I just wanted to put out that message. If you are a patron and you've been knitting this year and you haven't put your finished things in that Ravelry thread, then go and do it for me. That would be amazing. Or you can email us your finished things. Yeah, if you just want to, if you haven't been putting them in,
because some people hold them off and then put them in
some people hold them off, and you don't have to put, you know, if you think, oh, it's too much to post, you know, a million different pictures, just put one post. If you've got a couple of, you know, if you've got a few of the items there laid out, just take one picture and just list what it is you've knitted.
Perfect.
You know, I don't disbelieve people that they've not done the work.
No. So, folks, that's it. We'll be back in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, between now and when we see you next time, look out for more of the Magic Loop Socks series. That's hard to say.
That's hard to say.
Also, as well, Bakery Bear patrons, look out for our special binge-worthy box set series, which we put out twice a month, where that's a full series which you can binge straight through. I know you guys are loving that, and we've got some special features coming up that, you know, sort of lean into the socks a little bit for that binge-worthy box set series. And I think that's pretty much it.
I think that's it.
So thank you so much for watching.
Thanks,
it's been
everybody.
Wonderful to see you. Oh yes, don't miss our radio show next week.
Yeah.
And of course, like I mentioned earlier on the show, we had a radio show out last week, which people seem to love.
Oh.
And that was all, like I said, it was all questions which you guys had, you know, asked us over the few years we've been doing the radio show. We've never had time to do full shows, or we didn't think there was enough meat on the bone to do a full show. So we squashed them all into one show. So it was full of variety and all sorts. So it was super interesting. Yeah. But for now, thanks so much for watching.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks with more.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your